everybody, welcome back to Conversations with Allieetoile. Today I have an incredible guest and a lovely colleague of mine, the principal dancer from the Birmingham Royal Ballet, who's going to be joining us. And stay tuned just a second, I'm going to bring him on here. Let's see. Oh, Matt, it says unable to join. I think you need to leave the live and then come back on and give permission to your video. Sorry guys, technical difficulty. It's okay. Just a moment. Okay, he sees the message. Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay, well, everyone who's on here right now, thank you guys so much for being part of this episode. I'm very excited to have Matt on here with us. As I mentioned before, he is a principal dancer with the Birmingham Royal Ballet. Oh, Matt, I see your wife's account is on here. Maybe we can connect with her, if that's okay. If you can send me a thumbs up. Let's see. Sorry guys, just a second. Oh, he's back on. It still says unable to join. Can you try, you'll try on your phone. Oh, if you're on an iPad, yeah, it doesn't work if you're on an iPad always, or like a tablet, so if you're on your phone. Thank you guys for being patient and holding on, I appreciate it. In the meantime, I just want to thank everyone so much who has been participating so far. It's been such a fun journey, and I've been really... there it is. Okay, Matt's working now. Let's see, there he is, hopefully connecting. Awesome, there he is. Hey, Matt, thank you.
Hi, guys. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I am definitely not someone who is a tech guru. I've been learning as I go with this, so it's all good, it's all good. Anyway, welcome to Conversations with Allieetoile. I'm so happy to have you be part of this, and I know I've had a lot of people write in who are very excited to hear from you as well. So I've briefly introduced you, but I'd like to pass, the metaphorical microphone to you and allow you to, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about, your background, your career, and what you're doing right now.
Okay, so hi everyone. Obviously I'm Mathias. I'm a... Yeah, I am principal dancer for BRB. I'm from America, from Columbia, South Carolina. I grew up there till I was 12 and went away to school at the Kirov Academy of Ballet in Washington, D.C. I started ballet when I was 8, loved it, and went to Kirov. I was trained under one teacher for 6 years and then joined BRB straight from graduating school. Been in the company, I think I'm coming up to my 14th year.
Amazing.
Well, it's a long time. and in a mix with all of this, I've got 2 beautiful boys and a wonderful wife who's watching in the other room.
Yay! Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, like, I've had so many incredible people on this series so far, but I have been so excited to have some of my colleagues on here because I have the privilege of knowing you guys not only as incredible artists, but as incredible people, and that for me is like the biggest gift, being able to see the human side of things with all of you, which is, one of the biggest things I admire about you on stage and off. So I want to jump into today's conversation. For everyone watching, please feel free to send something in live if you wish, and let's do it. So obviously, this is not the greatest time in the world. There's a lot of fear, a lot of unknown, a lot of scary. People are being impacted physically and, mentally as well, which is something that I don't think a lot of people always like to point into the spotlight or draw attention to, because it's very personal and it makes us vulnerable. But I think it's something that tends to, again, is something that gets put on the back burner for those in the ballet world, especially. This is something that we live and breathe. And so I've had a lot of people asking, ballet is already, can be a short career. What are your thoughts on having to take time off in our career field when it's not necessarily an injury or a decision that we made to take some time away?
Yeah, it's been really hard. I'm not gonna lie. I found it really hard the last couple weeks. So we've been what 5 weeks since we've been on lockdown.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I got home, and after a whole run of Swan Lake, more or less, I haven't seen my family, and it was great to be at home with everyone.
Sure.
And then you start working, you want to keep your fitness up, and I kind of really beat myself down because I wanted to keep my level up for as high as I can, but it's impossible. You just can't do it at home. You got no space, and I've got two boys running all over me, and which is awesome. It's so much fun to see them.
Precious.
But it's hard to dance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, I've taken this week off completely to try to just, not worry about beating myself up because I can't do what I want to do.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's amazing because so many people I've had on here, it's been a wide range of, and again, I think it's very independent to you and your own needs because I'm a firm believer at the end of the day, the only one who's going to take care of you is you because you have the tools and it's what you build for yourself, especially in this time. Whether it's having a schedule that you wake up and it keeps you moving, it keeps you going, or it's being able to recognize, I need a bit of a let's press pause and reevaluate some of these other areas. And one of those, which I think is really important as well, because this is something that, again, typically in a ballet career, I don't want to say it's frowned upon, but there's often a lot of we can't stop because we'll lose. But there's also something that we've been calling, the burnout factor. When you get into this crazy workload, whether it's training or performing, sometimes there's days when you wake up and it's just I don't want to do this, or I really don't have the motivation. When you feel like that, obviously, how do you cope with that? And what are your tools per se to find the strength and inspiration to work through that or identify it if you do need that pause?
I'm not the best person to ask about a pause or having a break. I just keep going. But it's not necessarily the best trait to have. I do find myself when you do wake up those days and you're knackered and you're shattered and you don't want to get out of bed, is you'll feel better once you've done it.
Sure.
You'll feel better once you've done class. You'll feel better once you've warmed up. And I'm one of those people that if you always try to do the best you can on each day, then at least inside you will feel like you've achieved something, even if it wasn't your best day or your best work or your best performance, as long as you've done the best at that time.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what I'm always striving for. When I'm tired and can't be bothered, it's always, well, what can I do the best on that day?
It's interesting. It's funny because everyone who I've asked this question, you're oh, I'm not the right person to ask for this. Because I think it's so true with dancers that we're disciplined to just dive into the workload and, push through it, because that is, it's our training. We go to that mental place where we're able to work through it, And then in some cases, I've had a lot of people write in questions and asking what if I can't work through it? What do I do when you're getting into that stuck place? And it's interesting because then we get into all these topics of communication with dancers and talking with authority figures, within our lives. And that's not always something that ballet dancers have a comfort necessarily doing. And I'm just curious, what are your thoughts and opinions on that? We have those days and, I've seen it, you've seen it, where, we're in a rehearsal and it's just, you make eye contact across the studio and you're I know, and which is normal. I think that happens across the board, but having that camaraderie kind of, having friends, having colleagues to support you with that's one thing, but being able to actually address something with a member of artistic staff or a trainer, that can be very daunting at times for some dancers, maybe the younger ones.
Yeah, I still find it scary. I hate going to Marion or, well, David or now Carlos to say anything. Yeah, I absolutely hate it. It's like against every bone in my body.
Why do you
Um,
feel that?
um, I feel like I've failed, that I've not done my job. Um, and even when it's silly things, like I've luckily I've never actually been injured, but um, I've been off for other things like being ill. I had Bell palsy at Christmas.
Yeah.
Both my sons were born really prematurely, so we were in hospital for quite a long time.
Wow.
Um, uh, but then I still have to go to management and say, look, I need such and such time off, and they're great and they're understanding, but it still doesn't make it any easier um, to go and do it. Um, I still hate it. I'm
For
not gonna
sure.
lie.
No, it's so refreshing to hear that, not that I want to just highlight like, yeah, you're this principal dancer, but I feel that there's sometimes stigmas or stereotypes that the longer you've been in a company or the higher your position within the company, the more comfort that you have or the more secure you are. And it's nice to, on a human level, like we all we all have these little insecurities or little things that set us one way or the other. And it's nice to just, there's been a lot of people saying, like, yeah, I really wish I could speak to another dancer or another colleague that maybe is a little bit older or a little bit more seasoned. And there's this big, I shouldn't do it because I don't want to be disrespectful. And that was one of the things I found with you and several of the other, like, principles for soloists that that didn't necessarily exist. Of course I wanted to be respectful and I was like, oh God, I'm this new girl and I'm going to be crazy, but that was such a wonderful thing, and that's special to BRB. So, of course there's been so many people saying, how do you feel when you talk to other dancers? Like, should you feel stressed? Should you feel nervous? For me, I think, yeah, it's normal to be a little anxious, but we're all people, number one.
Yeah, yeah. We all. I don't know. I think to be to have a level of nervousness and stuff is healthy. I think
Sure.
it's really healthy because it makes you're judging whether it's a right decision or a wrong decision, um, and obviously too much of it isn't good either.
Oh, for sure,
Um,
yeah.
but it's important, and if you find it too comfortable to go and speak to people, or are you giving up too easily, or you also have the other way. If you're not going to speak to anyone, you actually could be putting your other colleagues at risk by, having to fill in at the last moment.
Yeah. It's very, and that's a very good point. I mean, it's very situational as well, I think, and circumstantial for the individual. But I think that that's an area, at least one of the topics we've been discussing on here is just that being able to speak, being able to communicate more should be more normalized because, at the end of the day, this is something that really sticks out to me as well. The way I see it is these people in positions of authority were us at one point in their careers. They lived through this. They went through the awkward moments, the guts and the glory per se, and they're most likely doing this as a job because they want to help us have the career that they had, or at least a career of
Absolutely.
our own. So putting it into that terms has been super helpful for me and hopefully for others as well. Another subject I want to touch on with you because this has been super popular, and this one's a little bit delicate as well, but I've had so many people writing into me about this. A lot of young men actually, and they have been asking, maybe I get bullied, or at that tender, those tender years, teenage years, where they want to do ballet, but there's a lot of social pressures on them, stereotypes and stigmas, saying like, you're in a female-dominated art form. What advice could you give to them? Being that you are at the pinnacle of your career in a major company, and you, I'm sure, have lived through moments where you've been under scrutiny or being criticized for maybe choosing ballet as your career path.
Yeah, I definitely got bullied a lot when I was younger. I started ballet when I was around 8, and from like 8 to 10, no one really, it wasn't really serious in that regard, and not many people knew about it, I would say, except for the people at my dance school, but
Sure.
they were all there for dance, so you're not going to really get bullied there. But when I was about 10 was when I started to get really serious, and I changed academic schools at the same time, and it just happened to be that a lot of the people I was dancing with were at that school, so it all got out that I was doing ballet, and yeah, it got quite bad. Not gonna lie, and I remember crying in the car going home, or well, really not going home, going to my dance lesson.
Mm-hmm.
um, and but I was quite driven at a young age, and not everyone is. So for me, it was like that's what I want to do. So I'll take it. I'll take the bullying in because my passion is dancing.
Sure.
But for other people who maybe are really struggling with it, people just don't understand, and people normally bully because they don't get it, and they maybe aren't around the arts or dance or anything like that. And the best thing that would be for them would be to go do a ballet class,
For sure.
see what it's all about.
Definitely.
I also got a lot of not so much bullying when I was younger, but I got, being from America, I had a lot of teachers and fellow students and stuff who really questioned why I left America to pursue my professional career. And that was quite hard. Not gonna lie, like people that I've known for years were like, why are you going to England? Like, what's there for you?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that was really hard, and lost base with probably quite a few people because of that. Don't really know what advice I would give, but obviously it turned out all right, and it was the right decision.
Sure, yeah. I mean, maybe not from an advice standpoint, but your perspective. What message, for those who maybe are not as involved in the ballet world as we are, or for those who maybe are uninformed, what message could you share to, if someone asks you, yeah, I'm a ballet dancer, I've seen it countless times, here, where they're like, oh, so you spin around like this, and I'm like,
No.
no, and they're like, oh, do you study on the side, or is that your part-time job? And I tend to see this more, not to be negative, but more in America than I do in Europe per se. And I think that maybe it's just because culture and the arts are a bit more celebrated and recognized over on our side of the ocean. But what message could you share? If someone says, what is a male ballet dancer? For someone who doesn't know, what would you say?
I would say come and watch.
I love that. Yeah.
You won't. I don't think anyone can really understand until you go watch either a class or a rehearsal or best of all a show. Even when they're like, "Oh, you dance around like this," like really, you need to go and actually see that it's a lot more to it than that. It's a lot harder. It's a lot more. It takes more discipline and skill set and physicality and all those things. And until you've really grasped and maybe even tried it yourself, it's probably unfair to say some of those comments, but you just take it, and it's probably just because they've not seen it.
For sure. No, and it's interesting because you were saying, maybe use the word understanding, and I think that also this is something that even as a professional ballet dancer, we sometimes forget because it just becomes habit for us, how much we truly sacrifice physically and mentally for this. And so basically, what can you talk about in regards to some of the sacrifices that you've had to make, or the commitment choices, the lifestyle choices that you've had to make to pursue dancing? Because this is something where, again, it's not the average 9-to-5 job where we're, waking up, going to an office, because very much of what we do, what we do at home is what's going to impact us the next day when we walk up to work, walk up to the bar. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it takes a lot of sacrifices. For starters, I left. My brother and I were 2.5 years apart, and he's younger. Mm-hmm. I went away to boarding school at 12. So at that time, I was like, I'm doing ballet, it's great, but
mm-hmm.
You look in hindsight, and that distance and that really pulled us apart for a long period of time. Yeah. And we're close now, but that's a huge sacrifice for. My brother.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah. You're good.
I had my whole life with, and then didn't see him every day. You also have moving away from home, not only to school, but then I moved countries. So I moved across the ocean to America and to England, and all my family in America who didn't really see me that much anyway really couldn't see me.
Sure.
And then you get to the point where I'm at now, and I now have a family, and I've got the sacrifices where I have to go away on tour for a week or 2 weeks, or on international tours 3 weeks, where I don't get to see them. And it's really hard on my wife Laura to take care of everyone and hold shit while I'm gone. And it's that's probably right now for me, that's definitely the hardest sacrifice that I face on a daily thing. Even going to work when someone's not had a good night, or coming home late and missing their bedtime, or just not being there in general. That's the hardest.
No, it's interesting because I've had, and this is something that surprised me, like I didn't even realize that maybe these individuals were watching this series, but I've had a lot of parents reach out to me who have young dancers in the house, and they're like, they're asking, my child is on this track, my child wants to do this, and they've been making progress, or at least have a teacher who is encouraging that this is something that's reasonable for them to do, but they have concerns about, oh, well, what about education? What about, life after ballet? Because again, they see the timeline, because it is very much, it's shorter than the average career trajectory. What could you share now, obviously, that you've made it to such a high level in your career, and you are a parent now as well? What if one of your sons said, Daddy, I want to try to do this too. I want to be like you. What wisdom could you pass along, because I think, again, and this is maybe to the uninformed eye, that ballet isn't this, end all be all, that maybe someone should look at medical school or becoming a lawyer or something like that.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, I think it's a lot different maybe when I or you were starting dancing. But nowadays, you can train in anything at any point. There's so many universities that do online. There's no age cap on it. You can go to university at 100 if you want. There's no reason why you can't pursue any career that you want after ballet.
Absolutely.
You just have to be as prepared as you can. There's an ex-dancer in BRB who's now a GP. Anything's possible. That doesn't make it easy.
Sure.
I'm doing a degree with the Open University. Just in my spare time, which is very little, to try to be prepared for, let's say I get injured, or the time's right to stop.
Absolutely. No, and I think I want to use you as like this example, because it's, again, here you are, principal dancer, family, whatever, all these amazing things that people would love, I'm sure, the natural path of life. These are the kinds of things that we all aspire to have. And being able to balance that, albeit it's difficult. I mean, I applaud you for that, because there's so many people who say it's difficult, I can't do it, maybe I'll wait until I'm done, this or that. And I think it's not impossible. It's, if you want it to happen, you make it happen. And I think that Definitely. That's something, again, that is, regardless if you choose to do dance recreationally as a hobby or professionally, that sort of discipline stays with you. And I think that only benefits you in a real life application.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at a place in my life now where, now that I'm in England, I'm pursuing options of what I can do over there, obviously. So it's nice to be able to see and to hear dancers say, like, it's not, my whole life isn't just the ballet. Allie the ballerina is a huge part of my identity, and to be honest, it's kind of how people know of me, but it's not all of me. And being Allie the person is the most important role in my life, and it always will be. And I think that that's something, again, that dancers, it's very easy to get into that ballet bubble, and not to be able to tap into those other interests and activities. And now, of all times, is definitely good enough reason to pursue that. So yeah.
I definitely think as well that the more you dwell into other areas of life, it's only going to make you a better dancer.
For sure.
You know, you have to be able to have experienced things to be able to portray that on stage. And likewise, what you learn as a dancer, you can take that to your other job when you're done dancing.
Absolutely, and I think that's incredible wisdom. I wish I could spend more time on it, but I want to move on to the next question here. Again, this is something that's a bit delicate, a
Okay.
little bit more sensitive, but this is a competitive world that we're in, very selective. And there's stereotypes and stigmas with what the ballet dancer's aesthetic should be, what we should look like, what we should move like. And there's a lot of outside influences, of course, that can paint images in our minds, whether it's social media or being in an audition room and seeing the girl to your right or the guy to your left with the foot bent in half and the leg wrapped around their head 9 times and around. So we can either, we bring it on ourselves, or sometimes we're seeing these outside influences that are making us a little bit like, oh, I can't do that, or I don't look like that, it doesn't look like that on me. What are your thoughts on having a healthy mental outlook on positive body image in ballet?
Yeah, it is a delicate thing for all dancers.
Sure.
It's something that's always plays on every dancer's mind. I think most of the time you can't get wrapped around it. You know, everyone's built differently. Everyone is good at different things, and I think the biggest key is to know your strengths. And there's not much point of beating yourself up watching someone who has a leg at 180 degrees when you physically can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that that's necessarily amazing to have your leg that high. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not desirable, but maybe you're better at something else, and it's being okay with yourself that you're not going to do that, but you're really good at something else.
Sure.
And I think if you bounce it off that way, you're turning what you in your head what is a negative into a positive. Well, I may not be able to do that, but I'm really good at this. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably the only real way you can get to it. Otherwise, you're just going to beat yourself up on something that you can't change.
For sure, yeah. I mean,
And that's just the physical aspect of it. Like, you can get into the whole diet thing, and that opens a whole new can of worms.
yeah.
And by the end of the day, there's so much science out there now that, a good diet just does wonders for you. And in this day and age, no one really wants to see a really super skinny dancer. They want to see a healthy woman or a physical man on stage.
Absolutely. They want to see, they want to see strength and beauty.
Exactly.
And if you're not healthy and strong within yourself, how can you even possibly imagine of being some transcending creature, character, whoever it is, And it very much, I agree with what you're saying, that we are our own greatest assets, I think that so many people get caught up with social media being one of them, which is something I want to touch on a bit later, where we see pictures of dancers,
Yeah.
or we see moments, just a snapshot, which albeit dance, that's what makes dancers some of the best subjects to capture, because the lines are stunning. But you have to put into perspective, that's just 1 second out of potentially an hour, 2 hour long ballet. And our art is not posing, it's moving, and it's how you move your body. And of course, like, we're a little crazy. I mean, we stand in a room with mirrors in front of us, and we're looking all day long, constantly trying to find something to fix. When a lot of it comes down to, physically speaking, like just the anatomy, we're not constructed to be doing this at all.
Yeah. I know.
So
I think as well, especially with social media, it's all about the image.
yes.
But that's not what ballet is. Ballet's not an image. Ballet's an art form. Ballet is what you feel. It's what you make other people feel. It's portraying a character. It's the atmosphere. It's the things that you can't take a picture of.
Absolutely.
And that's what ballet is really about. You
Beautifully
know,
said.
it yeah, it's about, you know, crying when you watch, like, you know, people dance, whether it's tears of joy or tears of sadness. You know, that's what we do. We dance to move people, or at least I strive for that. You know, it's obviously we all want to be technically able and be able to do the biggest jump and have the highest leg, but that's the that's the bonus.
For sure, for sure. In you, I have nothing more to add. I mean, you said it perfectly, but truly, it's for me especially. I have the privilege of watching you, dance as well, being my colleague. That to me is more important than the foot that bends in half or the 30 pirouettes,
Yeah.
because yeah, it's 2020 and you see things on Instagram like a 7-year-old in Asia doing, something insane that I've never even seen in my life. Yeah, of course, I wish I could do that. Of course, I wish I could put on my point shoes and do, 64 fouettes in my kitchen, but that's not,
Yeah.
that's not what it
And
is.
and if you look back, you know, everyone has their favorite dancer, you know, that they like watching and that they learn from. And if you take all the famous dancers out there, the reason why they're famous is not of what they've done on stage, it's what they've made people feel. And that's why they've
Absolutely.
stayed around for so long. That's why people still talk about Nijinsky and Nureyev and Brezhnikov, because they, you know, those are the guys. Like they, you know, because they did something special that no one else could do.
For sure, for sure. It's and you summarized it perfectly. It's not what they're doing; it's how they do it. The
Yeah.
artist in it, which is beautiful. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the social media side of things because now, especially, if I was 12-year-old Allie, I would be overwhelmed looking at all of these amazing dancers around the world doing all these incredible Zoom classes or, teaching variations or talking about experiences, and I would be just over my head. Oh my gosh, I have to do all of it. This is so great. Um, but also, now that I'm not 12, I'm looking at it from the perspective of that could be absolutely overwhelming for those younger dancers and artists out there. And maybe if they're not necessarily being guided properly, which, again, we're all at home and what do? We turn to our mobile devices. You know, we're talking about safety. We're talking about realistically what we can do if we're going to do something at home. Which again, and I've had younger students write into me, I really want to do something, but I cannot do that company class that was on Instagram Live. I don't want to hurt myself. What wisdom could you share about, of course, continuing to work? And I think it's so commendable for people wanting to push themselves and keep going, but there is a right and a wrong way about going about that. Or I guess, I don't want to say right and wrong. What I should say is maybe a healthy and a not so healthy way of looking at that.
Yeah, definitely what you said, healthy and not healthy. You know, you like I said before, you need to know your strengths. You know, if you're an amateur dancer, there's you to do a professional ballet class is going to be a big challenge. You know, and potentially dangerous. Um, but you know, I'm always a person that you should always look up, and you should always try to take what you can from other people. But
Yeah.
you do need to kind of know your limits. I struggled the last few weeks in how to work. I'm still trying to find what's healthy.
Oh, I as well.
Um,
I as well. It's
yeah,
been it's been a roller coaster.
but with social media, it's definitely hard because you know, like you say, you see a snapshot and you're like, you want to do that, and you try to, let's say, do it at home, and you can't, even if you could. You
Yeah,
know, you can't. Like, you're not in a studio. You don't have the professional lights, and you don't have all those things that make those pictures what they are. Um, but yeah, social media is great and it's not great. You know, I'm not the best on it, but you can definitely get yourself bogged down on what everyone else can do,
for
as opposed to
sure.
concentrating on what you can do and how you can do things.
It's so valid, And then another thing that's been like a very relevant point that we've discussed on here is it's interesting to me how quick everyone is to want to post and to share all of these amazing, glorious, exciting things. Like, yes, I I got this job, or I won this scholarship or award or whatever. We talk about the positives, but you don't really hear anyone or see anyone coming out there and saying, yeah, I went to 10 auditions and didn't get a single contract, or I went to a competition and didn't even, get to the second round. We don't see the realities. And the reality is, in this career, there's a lot of beautiful highs, and there's going to be moments that feel like devastating lows as well. Which again, it puts us in a vulnerable place, and who wants to say it didn't work out? Nobody wants that. But it's a part of what we do. And I want to tie this into something that's very relevant right now that I've had a lot of people asking. For many dancers, this was their graduating year, or their year of going to an audition and trying to get a job. And obviously with what's going on, there's no auditions happening or jobs to be had. And there's a lot of people who are frightened, do I have to stay in school another year? Am I going to be able to get a job? Am I going to have to go back home? What am I going to do? What could you speak about in regards to being in a place of so much uncertainty and trying to find a path forward?
I would say everyone's in the same boat. You can say that you can't do auditions, but the companies need dancers, and they can't hold auditions either. The auditions will come around. It probably isn't when people want them to, and it might not help you, but the companies all need to fill. They all have contracts to give out. It's just when. And I feel really sorry for people who are in that situation, because that must be really stressful, especially like having the whole thought that they're gonna have to go back home possibly for a year and be back at their local school training every day, and maybe have to get a job on the side which they've never done in their life or have any experience with. And it's sad, but things will turn around. I don't know when. The companies will give out jobs, there will be auditions, and hopefully sooner rather than later.
For sure. And it's interesting. I had another dancer on here not too long ago, James Michael Hayward. He is a international guest artist, and he's also an artistic director. And he was saying very interesting. He's like, yeah, of course these companies are shut down, but that doesn't mean people are still not reading emails on a computer. Send your materials, because maybe they can't call you tomorrow, but maybe they can call you in a couple months down the road. There's always hope, and there's always something that you can do to keep yourself on your trajectory of, wherever you're intending to go towards, which again, I think that it's really nice to hear that, especially from someone who is a dancer and someone who's an artistic director as well.
Definitely. And the companies aren't shut down. BOB is not shut down. None of the companies are fully shut down. There are people there who are still working, and get your stuff together and send it if you need to, and hopefully you'll get an email back. It's hard.
We have time right now, and people are bored. I'm sure that there's, plenty of ballet masters out there who would see an email and be like, oh, finally something for me to do, I know that would probably be my initial reaction if I was in that position. And so I want to take this another direction, because I've had a lot of people, I've got my computer here, so people are writing stuff in as we go. Someone is asking, because they want to know, what was the most difficult aspect for you of transitioning from a student to a professional? Basically, how did you survive your first year as a, apprentice, first year core in a company? Because that's definitely something that, as much wisdom as we can talk and share about, it's hard.
I failed my first year. I'm not gonna lie. I was really bad. I was a really successful student. I won lots of competitions. Had lots of job offers. And I thought I had everything. I thought I knew everything. And I thought I was going to join a company and be straight up principal roles straight away. And that's just unrealistic. It just doesn't happen unless you're that, one in a million who has not only the talent but the right head on the shoulders, who can take it straight away, and that's rare. But for most people, it takes time. I, I, I wasn't good at picking up rep or even class work. Like at my school, we used to do the same class all week, the same
Really?
one. So once you learned it on Monday, you were done for the week. And then go into a company setting where it's changing. It's it was really challenging. I was really frustrated the first wee while in the company. But you move on and you start to learn and assess and really look at yourself and how you can get what you want out of ballet. That took me a while to understand that there's a lot more to dancing than doing the tricks and the turns, and it's a lot more to being a professional dancer. You have to be quick. You
Yeah.
have to be, you have to communicate well. You have to be able to make friends. You have to, be responsible. You have to help everyone. You have to be professional. You have to dress appropriately. Speak in the right manner. There's so much into it, and it took me a long time to discover all that.
It's very interesting, and someone wrote in a question which I think is I haven't had this question on this conversation series at all, so I'm interested. Someone's saying, if, I take partnering classes at school, but I've heard that, that doesn't happen in a company. Well, no, there's not always pas de deux classes, at least not in the companies I've seen. Especially, and this is maybe more dedicated towards young male dancers, but what do you do? I guess how do you keep yourself going? Because, I'm reading this and understanding that, obviously they're training and we're doing partnering classes, but when you get into a company, that's, you're not going to be doing a pas de deux on the first day.
Yeah, well, it's tricky. A lot of the times, most guys have had very little partnering, and girls.
Mm-hmm.
And they just expect you to do it straight away in the company. And unless you were lucky enough to do stuff at school, and not all schools offer it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's tricky. Also, as a guy, it takes you a long time to develop physically. Most guys don't finish growing till they're 21, 22.
Sure.
So, yeah, you can't beat yourself up over it, and you just have to take the advice of the people who are around you, the ones who know what they're doing, who are experienced, who can help you. And if you don't hide from their help, then you'll have a lot to learn.
Absolutely. I think that's wonderful.
I'm going to have to, just 2 seconds, I'm going to have to go and get my charger.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
My battery is absolutely shot, and I don't want this to cut off.
No, that's okay. We will take a 2-second recess.
2 second, all right.
Okay.
Be back in a second.
You're good.
Sorry.
Good. No, that's okay. So everyone who's watching right now, I mean, wow, it's incredible for me because I've been having all these conversations and hearing from these guests, and the amount of knowledge and perspective it's coming from a place of experience, which is one of the greatest tools that I think as a dancer we can learn from, is whether it's something that we're living ourselves or it's something that we are hearing from others. And that's been a privilege. A lot of people saying, well, Allie, you're a professional dancer as well, but I've only been a professional dancer for a fraction of the time as, say, someone who is a principal dancer as well. So I am learning from this. Hopefully everyone else is as well. And as soon as Matt gets back, the next question is going to be a little bit more along...
I'm almost back.
Ah, there he is. Awesome. Okay. Cool.
Save, when you get that 10% buzz, you
know.
Oh,
yeah, 10%, the blood pressure rises. Oh my gosh, I start sweating.
What am I going to do?
All good. So, the next question I was really going to ask, which is something that's been, again, this is something that is, I don't think it's commonly talked about within the ballet world, or if it is, it's because someone went out of their way to ask about it and inform themselves. We see this in companies, not all companies, but it is a thing, typecasting. And then sometimes in certain schools, or if you're a younger dancer and you want to, figure out what style of movement works best for you, how do you go about doing that? Obviously there's different types of training. There's, Vaganova, there's the Cubans, there's the French, and then, the list goes on. There's all these different types of curriculums. How do you figure out, I guess, what works best for you? And it's hard to say because I think that you have to truly experience it and be guided. But when you're choosing a company per se, what drew you to choosing Birmingham Royal Ballet? Or did you have an idea of, yeah, I want to be in this company for this reason?
Yeah, for my main reason why I ended up in England was my family is European. My grandfather came from Hungary, and we traveled to Europe at a very young age throughout all my childhood, which where I'm from, not many people get that, are able to do that, have that sort of opportunities.
Sure.
So I always knew there's a lot more there, everywhere in the world. So I was kind of always drawn to Europe,
Yeah.
and I auditioned for quite a few places and didn't get some, and got BRB, and it just felt right. I came over and took class, and there was something special about Birmingham Royal Ballet that I latched onto. But yeah, with styles and with everything, the more you experience, the better you're going to be, and you should just try. I was trained as a Vaganova dancer, but I've had my entire professional career in an English company, and I had to adapt to that style. And there's a time and a place for my Russian training to come out.
Sure.
But I'm in an English company, and I think if you can turn it on and off, the different styles, that is truly amazing. And I wish I had more experience with other styles, but I haven't had that chance. But yeah, the more you experience, the better you're going to be. And as long as you've got the mindset to try it, then you're going to gain something from it.
For sure. And it's interesting as well because people have been asking, is it, when you, which I think is a very valid question because, when I was younger, during my auditioning years, it was just, I was looking at the company that I wanted to be in, which I think that looking back at it now, it shouldn't be as much as I want to be in this name company. It's where would I like to live, number one, can I have a nice life here, or do I see myself maybe liking this type of a living arrangement? And then from the professional aspect, of course, who's the director? Who are the ballet masters? What's the rep that they do? What kind of things do I want to be dancing? And, choreographers, who would I like to work with that maybe this organization affiliates with or works with a lot?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely audition for for names, but I ended up going to BRB because I was a very classical dancer.
Sure.
And I really enjoy doing the other works, but my classical ballet is where I'm probably at my best.
Mm-hmm.
And BRB does a lot of classics.
They do.
And that was the main thing. When I came over, I watched the company do Sleeping Beauty, and I watched Chi Chow do it, and I was like, that's amazing. He's amazing. And I was like, take class with him every day, and I took class with the company there, and so many amazing guys. That's what really sold it for me.
Sure.
But yeah, I think when people audition, you should just audition everywhere and then assess when you've got jobs.
Give yourself the option to experience it.
Yeah, you don't know what the situation is with all the companies. They might be looking for a dancer who's over 2 meters tall or someone who's 5 foot. You don't know what they're looking for, or even if they are looking for anyone, it's. But you should just do it. And I think if you have the luxury to choose which company you want to go, and then you can start looking at where do I want to live or what the rep is, or don't shun a company just because they don't do this person's work.
Yeah.
They might do someone else, which the company you wanted doesn't do.
Sure, sure. No, I think that's incredibly amazing information. No, I want to circle back slightly, just a little bit. And we've discussed a lot of, mental things that we go through as dancers, crossing and navigating those social, stereotypes and stigmas and things like that, and I'm hopeful that when we get back, hopefully sooner rather than later, I'm thinking that a lot of people are going to be really valuing what we do in a much greater capacity. But I'm curious, this is a question I've asked all of my guests so far. I'm excited to hear what your thoughts will be. What is one thing that when we do return to normal, or what normal is, what is one thing that you would love to see change within the ballet world, or something that you would love to see more care and thought and attention given to?
I think for me, what I would really like is I would like all the companies in the world to work together more. Very much every company has got its territory, and they go to their theaters, and it's their audience.
Sure.
Which I understand why it is that way. But, if we could all share the art form everywhere, that's only going to be better for us as artists and for the audience. So I would really, really like to see people start working more together. I think that would be amazing.
It'd be beautiful
for everyone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then before we run out of time, and I feel so bad because I've got so many people writing questions, but I'll choose just one last one. What is one piece of parting wisdom that you could share to dancers of any age, or viewers of any age, something that inspires and motivates you that you could pass along?
I'm of a person who you need to work hard. If you really, really, truly want to excel at something in anything, and this isn't just ballet, you have to work for it. Sure. You have to be willing to work for it and want to work for it. And I think that is the most important asset to any job, because even if you're not the most talented person, people respect hard work. They respect people who will give anything to get what they want. And for me, definitely good work ethic is the number one thing. And the biggest thing that I would say to younger dancers is if you work hard and you listen well, you've got so much to learn and achieve. Listening is really important. And even for me, I need to listen a lot more to my peers and colleagues, because everyone has something to say. And if you're willing to listen to it, then you can only better yourself as a dancer and a person.
Sure. I mean, oh my goodness, Matt, it has been a pleasure to listen to all of your thoughts and your wisdom today. I hope that everyone watching this has also had an amazing takeaway. So I want to thank you for giving me an hour of your time. I so appreciate it. And, for those who are watching this now, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. If you want to learn more about Matt and the Birmingham Royal Ballet and keep up to date with everything that's going on, he has all of his details on my website, allieetoile.com, in the artist profile section. And of course, I gotta support my little VRB family. Go check out Birmingham Royal Ballet on Instagram as well, and Matt, because he is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being part of this with me. I miss you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ali, and thank you everyone for watching. And hopefully we can get back to doing what we
I hope so.
What we love soon. And yeah, you need to get back on the other side of the ocean,
I know. I've got a flat sitting empty that I'm just wondering what's happening right now. Oh gosh, crazy life, fun stuff. Oh well. Okay.
Anyways, thank you.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure, you guys, and we will see you next time. Take care. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.